A few days later, Myuguk is back in his training room. He is content with the result. After focusing on a few days of training since his regression, he is now able to freely infuse his energy into the wind and able to maintain 3 to 4 lines of it. He wasn't expecting his father to teach him how to discharge his energy to check out the surroundings. This is as good as getting an extra life, because he will be able to first find out the enemy that's trying to attack him. If he continues training and becomes capable of releasing more than 10 lines of energy at the same time, he might be able to neutralize any stealth techniques used by his enemy. In the end, even his father, who is much more skilled, loses to Mugi because the Heavenly Demon Pavilion was infiltrated. The Heavenly Demon Pavilion is a place that was thoroughly guarded by 3 barrier formations, 6 trap formations, and a group of carefully selected elites. There are also 8 Supremes in 8 directions, and their subordinates protect the Heavenly Demon. In the north, there are the demonic swordsmen of the Northern Heaven Sword family, led by the 1/Sword Supreme. In the south, there are the demonic bladesmen of the Southern Heavens Blade, led by the Blood Heaven Sword Demon. In the east, there are Iron Fists of the Eastern Fist faction, led by the undefeated Fist Demon. In the west, there are the demonic sorcerers of the Western Illusion formation, led by the Soul-Stealing Demon. In the northeast are the faceless swordsmen who want to become the evil, smiling demon. In the southeast, there's the drunken swordsman that's always drunk with demonic drunkard. In the southwest are the poison fangs who research all sorts of poison along with the poison king. Finally, in the northwest are the crazy monks who are crazy about the demonic Buddha's beliefs of deluding the world. Back then, he thought the enemy had broken in from the outside. Only later he realizes that the outer defense was never broken. Myuguk is certain that someone among the 8 demon supremes let Mugi into the Heavenly Demon Pavilion where the Heavenly Demon was. There could be more than one traitor because they never had been found. For now, it doesn't matter who it is because Myuguk treats all 8 demon supremes as traitors. After his father died, none of the 8 supremes sought revenge. Instead, they decided to close down the demonic cult. This time, he will make use of all of them through and through. As Myuguk walks outside, he hears a voice calling Leon Fatty. It is a bald man, bringing along his henchmen looking for the young master. He is getting impatient because Myuguk spent days in the training room and asks Leon to get him. Suddenly, Myuguk goes out of the training room asking what is going on. Myuguk scolds her because he repeatedly tells her to do her own things instead of waiting for him. The bald man interrupts them, asking all sorts of questions. He is a disciple of the Blood Heaven Sword Demon, Yang Pu. One can say the reason he dares to act this way is wholly because of Myuguk's father. After Chanhua announced that anyone in the cult could become the successor, being the Heavenly Demon's son no longer feels that special, and fueled the ambitious desires of many within the cult to defeat the sons of the Heavenly Demon. The bald wuss blames Myuguk because Pyungo can no longer practice martial arts. The wuss is mad over the fact that the young master didn't take this matter seriously and for him to apologize to him directly. Myuguk simply brushes him off since their relationship is not that close enough to have this conversation. Myuguk knows well why this wuss comes here. The best disciple of the Blood Heaven's Sword Demon wasn't selected after Pyungo. That's why his disciples are trying to impress him by doing whatever it takes. Yang Po wants an official apology from Myuguk so that he can claim credit for not making the Blood Heaven's Sword Demon look bad. Myuguk simply smiles at him, saying his master would not necessarily choose him as his best disciple just because he does this. That angers the wuss, claiming he is only here for Pyungo's sake. Myuguk says that there is enough insolence coming from Yang Po, showing off his killing intent and asking him to apologize in this instant. He is confused as to what for he has to do that. Myuguk states it because he dares to speak to his subordinate. Leon is surprised to receive such treatment from her young master. Yang Po's dumb brain could not comprehend such words. Leon tries to de-escalate the situation, but her young master has already set his mind. Walking toward the wuss, Myuguk commands him to kneel down and apologize after he dared to speak rudely to his subordinate, Leon. Yang Po doesn't want to kneel, pointing to Leon and calling her fatty. Myuguk is furious over the fact this wuss dares to run his mouth again. In return, Yongpa thinks he is crazy and claims he would rather die than kneel to her. A wicked smile appears on Muguk's face, the words he was waiting for. He finally utters it and going to grant his wish. Muguk draws his sword, showing conviction that Yongpa has to apologize no matter what. This surprised them, as Yongpa thought the young master was going crazy. With that, Muguk gives him an ultimatum to make a choice, either to fight him or kneel and apologize, before emphasizing the fact his master won't be pleased if he chooses to retreat. Muguk is adamant, claiming he cares about his subordinate and won't allow anyone to insult her. The vein in his bald head is surging, because the young master is trying to kill Yongpa over the guard he sees as a mere pig. Only then Muguk claims that is how much she means to him. That instant, Yongpa draws his sword and decides to fight the young master. The henchmen try to prevent him from doing that, as well as Leon holds her young master. Right after, Yongpa does his usual villain speech, saying since his opponent is the son of the heavenly demon, he will take an arm of his instead of his life. He takes his stance going for immediate attack, while Muguk watches his gaze absent of emotion. Yongpa swiftly swings his sword and launches his attempts to take the young master's hand, which Muguk easily evades. Before he can do anything else, Muguk already has his sword gone through his mouth. An instant kill with no hesitation in his strike. That surprises the henchman along with Leon. It's his punishment. Muguk states that his mouth was the cause of his death. He used that mouth to insult his subordinate, and that very same mouth refused to apologize. He takes his sword, and Yongpa's lifeless body flocks over. Muguk's eyes are empty, akin to just merely killing an ant. The two henchmen hurriedly run over. One of them screams, asking whether the young master can handle the consequences of this. Horror descends on their face as Muguk states how their mouth resembles his. Right after, he threatened them, telling them to pass his words exactly the way he said it. In the end, they go back to their own pavilion. Leon nervously asks why he did it for someone like her. Muguk smiles because he is worried about him, even though she has been hurt emotionally. Looking at her in the eyes, it's not simply because of her. He simply killed someone who deserved to die, but she's still worried the Blood Heaven Sword Demon wouldn't have let this slide. It's understandable for Leon to be this scared. The 8 martial masters of the demonic cult who possess great influence possess superior martial prowess and subordinates that not even his father, the heavenly demon, can ignore. The Blood Heaven's Blade Man is one of the 8 demon supremes. Muguk crippled one of his disciples and killed another. Wearing a warm smile on his face, Muguk assures Leon that he won't do anything. He would just get criticized for teaching his disciples wrongly. He walks to her and taps her shoulder as he reminds her not to worry so much about him. On the contrary, Muguk actually will gain something out of killing Yongpa. Right after, Leon thanked her young master for what he did, feeling happy that he had taken her side just now. In return, Muguk tells her to remember this for the rest of her life. He wants her to live a life wearing a smile like that. Sometimes later, Muguk is chilling in his backyard. He thinks of how he was drowned in the sense of defeat as he ran away after the demonic cult disbanded. The sense of depression was so great that he wouldn't have been able to continue living if he hadn't been running towards a goal in life. Out of a sudden, a great sword appears beside him. It is either a treat or an intimidation on his neck. An old man appears out of thin air. Without saying anything, he already radiates killing intent, having his sword on the young master. He is the Blood Heaven Sword Demon, one of the pillars who carry the demonic cult. Muguk is nervous. He didn't think this old man would get here this quick. No matter how much knowledge he has gained from his past life, his inner energy is severely lacking, so won't be able to dodge it. Suddenly, the pressure is gone, and the old man sits beside him. Wicked smiles appear on his face as he nudges the pommel of his sword toward the young master. He asks why he does such a thing. Nervously, Muguk admits that Yongpa acted like a fool. As if he is provoking him, Muguk asks why the old man picks a fight with his young master, since no one would care about the fools. Returning the provocation, the old man points his sword at Muguk's neck once more. He asks whether the heavenly demon would care if he brought Muguk's head in his hand. Muguk honestly thinks this old man wouldn't be able to do it if he thought about his father's terrifying eyes. The old man takes his sword and draws a mark on the ground in front of them. He draws a ratio of what he understands about heavenly demons' feelings about them, a small ratio for his son, and the rest for the blood heaven sword demon. Muguk innocently claims that he is wrong. He claims that this old man is wrong, and he believes it's 7-3 in his favor, because he is the heavenly demon's son after all. The old man dares Muguk, saying they will know for real if he carries his head solely on his arm to the heavenly demon. Muguk says the old man might greatly underestimate the love of a father. The moment he says it, he releases his pressure once more and threatens to test it once and for all. Muguk admits that there's no need to do such a thing. The heavenly demon has 2 sons, and there's only one blood heaven sword demon. The old man smiles after understanding that Muguk is not as foolish as his disciple. In return, Muguk thinks if his disciple was anything like his master, he would still be alive. Right after, the old man tells Muguk that he has lived his whole life with misfortune, hoping they don't meet often. Muguk agrees and will remember that as the old man flies off to the sky in a single leap. The moment he is gone, Muguk finally can stop the act. He lifted up his night robe, bruised by a mere nudge from the old man. Muguk knows well that the blood heaven sword demon might look like he acts as he pleases, but that is not the case. He calculates and plans everything meticulously. The fact that he repeated twice that he would carry Muguk's head to his father means that he really was thinking of doing that. He came to test Muguk because his wish to go hunting with his father was unique in that cursed old man's eyes. He is here to see if Muguk is fit to become the successor. A few days pass by in a blink of an eye. Muguk diligently trained his capabilities to control more of the concentrated lines of energy. This particular day, he found someone sneaking on the roof of his training room. That instant he goes up with his sword in hand, only to be surprised to see that his father comes for him. Manhwa heard Muguk killed the disciple of the blood heaven sword demon. Muguk claims that this disciple deserved death to his father. So Manhwa reveals the fact that whether he deserved it or not doesn't matter. Either way, the blood heaven sword demon has come looking for Manhwa. He wants Muguk to receive punishment. Reading between the lines, Muguk thinks the blood heaven sword demon is trying to test the relationship he has with his father. He also wants to find out if Blood Manhwa considers Muguk as one of the successor candidates. Muguk claims there is no justification for Manhwa to punish his son, but he already decides to punish his son. Manhwa recalls one of his son's questions regarding one he trusts the most among the demon supremes. Back then, while they were drinking on the night they went hunting, Muguk didn't get any answer from his father. Now, Manhwa reveals he doesn't trust anyone, not even the demon supremes. Right after, Manhwa mentioned that Muguk once said hierarchy and discipline need to be set in order within the cult. Manhwa wants to hear his son's thoughts, not the usual bullshit like corruption needs to be gotten rid of. With conviction in his voice, Muguk feels like somewhere along the line, they have lost the path of the demon. Manhwa asks him to clarify. So Muguk explains further that the path of the demon would be the belief that only their cult has to defeat absolute evil. So he adds that even though there are orthodox factions, the true enemy of the demonic cult is the absolute evil that's so cowardly and evil that no human in the world can bear it. Even demons would despise it and turn away from them. The justice and chivalry that the orthodox faction advocates for might be able to deal with the lesser evils, but Muguk doesn't think they are capable of dealing with absolute evil. Manhwa listens intently. Muguk understands the orthodox faction is fundamentally rooted in being forgiving. As long as they value people, they could not be a match for the evil that has forsaken their humanity and run rampant. With determination in his heart, Muguk asserts that they're the only existence within the Murim that can get rid of the evil that's atrocious and wicked by being even more wicked. Only when the great evil that even the orthodox faction can't handle kneels in front of them, that's when they have truly accomplished the path of the demon. If they can't accomplish the true path of the demon, they won't be able to go far, so they must punish themselves so that they can survive. Muguk knows his father never thought of this before or heard of anything like this, because Muguk didn't learn this or realize this when he was in this cult. That's what he felt as he wandered the Central Plains for his whole life. After listening silently, Chanhwa asks whether he has anything to add. In return, Muguk says that it should suffice. Now, Chanhwa kind of understands why the Blood Heaven Sword Demon wants him to punish his son. He has seen something in Muguk, and he wants to use the Heavenly Demon to test his son. Muguk guesses that the cursed old man saw a possibility of being a successor candidate within him. There is also a possibility that the cursed old man sees Muguk as someone who will mess up the cult. Whichever it could be, the Blood Heaven Sword Demon sure has good eyes for noticing the extraordinary. In the end, Chanhwa tells his son to follow. Before long, they arrive in front of the entrance to Minor Heaven Cave. This place is where a possible candidate that could become the Heavenly Demon, a disciple of the Heavenly Demon, or a child of the Heavenly Demon goes to be tested. Going in is easy, but if they can't get through the trials in it, then they will be stuck within it forever. Half of the people who are blood related to the Heavenly Demon that went and have lost their lives. This place is so dangerous that even Muguk's overly ambitious brother hasn't mentioned that he wants to go in. At the end of the day, this is a place that he must pass through at least once if he wants to become the Heavenly Demon. So Muguk asks his father whether he wants him to go into this place. Chanhwa went in around his son's age. He took around 2 months to get out. Muguk is surprised that his father, known to be the most talented in martial arts among all the Heavenly Demons so far, yet it still took him 2 months to get out. Chanhwa was the only one to make it out in 2 months, while the rest took on average 3 years. He wants his son to enter this place as his punishment without preparation. Chanhwa sends Muguk to a place where he could die just because the Blood Heaven Sword Demons want to punish him. Muguk looks at his father's stern expression, wondering if his father doesn't care about his son or wishes for him to be stronger and come out there alive. With a smile on his face, Muguk decides abide to by his father's words and promises to try to come out even earlier. Giving back the smiles to his son, not a bit of worry appears on his face as he is excited to see his son try. In the end, Muguk enters the cave with curiosity in his mind. He wonders how terrible this place is for so many people to get stuck in here. Reaching the first room, he finds a pedestal with the information about the first trial written on it. Muguk needs to cut down all his enemies without using sword aura or enhanced sword aura. If he can't succeed within the time limit, he will be given another chance 10 days later. While inside, he also finds jars full of grain balls to eat. He feels there's no need to wait any longer, so Muguk puts himself in the crimson-red circle. Right after, a bunch of mannequins show up from the hole in the floor. With a single glance, Muguk knows he is supposed to slash where the red marks are. He immediately strikes the red marks on them, starts from the closest to him, and makes his way one mannequin after another. He moves akin to a tsunami, going through the seemingly endless target he must take down in the allocated time. Even after splendidly displaying such incredible martial arts, it proves to be harder and tougher than he thought. A few targets that left going down, and once they did it would fail Muguk. He hurriedly comes over trying to strike them down. With it, he struck one more, and he left with another 4. He dashes over and slashes another 3. He looks back, and there is one more left as it goes down with the red mark on its neck as the target. Muguk puts strength on his leg and immediately jumps to it. In the nick of time, he successfully gets the last one. Trying to get his breathing in order, he almost had to spend another 10 days here because he let his guard down for a second. With how he is now, he knows it would be impossible for him to get through this first trial with his skills before his regression. After finishing the first trial, the way to the second is open. As he walks, he sees a stone slab for the people who try the trials can write on. People wrote about how many tries for them to succeed, some who claimed to be the best, and some who admitted to giving up and then tried to go back, but there was no such way out. Muguk tries to look closer, and he smiles the moment he finds his father's words written on it. Chanhwa simply says what an idiot they are for even failing one try. Although he is not wrong, Muguk can't believe his father berated their ancestors. After going through the hall, he finds himself in a room full of weapons neatly set up. Seeing as how there are so many types of weapons, this trial seems to be one that would need one to make use of them. So Muguk looks at the instruction pedestal, It instructs him to use the sword that is hung on the wall to split the stone in half within 2 hours. It allows him to use ordinary or enhanced sword aura. If he cannot succeed within the time limit, he shall be given another chance 20 days later. The moment Muguk stands on the red circle, another pedestal appears with a shiny ball of stone on it. Muguk has 2 hours for this. He thinks it's too much time to just cut a single ball into half. If he used enhanced sword aura, he could cut hundreds of these in 2 hours. Muguk ponders over it for a minute, thinking there must be a reason for the instruction. He tries to slash it in half, but the sword he picked up snaps the moment the sword containing his strength collides with the stone ball. Looking at it, he now knows that it won't work without sword aura. So he intends to use enhanced sword aura to cut this ball in half and quickly move on to the next trial. Suddenly Muguk stops, and he realizes that it would be too easy to pass like that. Before he does, he wonders how the others did this. One wrote he split it in half in one try by using the enhanced sword aura. Another one tried up to 89 times to cut it into half without aura, but he failed and used it in the end. Muguk is looking for how his father did it, and he finds it. Once again, Manhwa berated their ancestor, saying it's absolute nonsense. If there's heat, they lose. Muguk is dazed because his father's usual self would simply just berate the ancestor and get it over with like he did in the first trial. Thinking about it further, Muguk finally understands that for this second trial, the only way to pass is to not use the aura. What his father said was some sort of warning to not use enhanced sword aura because heat is generated when one uses it. In the end, Muguk tries to clash it in half using seer strength. One after another, the weapons he picked snapped in two after it made contact with the ball. Even an axe fails to make a dent in the ball, so Muguk tries to hit it with a hammer, and yet again he fails to break it in half. His time is almost up, and his breath is shallow because of failed repeatedly to strike the ball without using aura. Muguk becomes extremely frustrated because of this, until he decides to take a deep breath, thinking that his father succeeded in splitting this stone ball in half without using aura. An idea springs into his mind. He gathers his inner energy and discharges it into a single line going toward the ball. Examining it with this ability, he can detect a faint line that he couldn't see just by using his eyes to look at the ball. One last attempt to do it without enhanced sword aura. He sees that is not an illusion. The perfect line forms a perfect circle around it. This time he succeeded. In one clean swing, Muguk is able to cut it in half, and a bright smile appears on his face. But then he is surprised to see that there is a hole inside the ball that contains a demonic essence pill.